Saturday, January 29, 2011. I am getting back to working on the car today. I couldn't finish it up last weekend because I didn't have the parts yet, and they were delayed because of all the snow we've had. So I came out here this morning, dug the car back out as best I could to get to the parts I need to work on. Here's the new driver's side CV axle. It's actually a rebuilt one. I was able to get a pair of rebuilt ones, reasonably cheap on closeout, so that should be all ready to go. I've just got to, hard to see through here, but that's that whole face there, so I'll grease. I got to wipe that down, put a new gasket on that. Before I finished up last time, let's see if I can aim the camera in here. So able to loosen all 6 of these bolts going around the old inner CV there, and I loosened the nuts there on the ball joint and the outer axle nut here. So this should come out pretty quickly, and the new one should go in. So I just have to go to the other side then. So hopefully this won't take too long. My wife and I do have plans tonight, so I'm hoping to have the car ready for then, but most likely we're going to end up taking her car anyway. So anyhow, that's how that is done, and I will hopefully be able to have time to make another update when I have all the parts in, or perhaps even along the way. Okay, it is still Saturday the 29th. I have the old axle off the car, and it's hard for me to determine whether or not there's really anything, what if anything has actually gone wrong with this one. I mean, there's a little bit of play, but not nearly as bad as I've seen, actually in reference to another very specific video on YouTube. So, I'm not seeing any tears in the boots. So, here is the new driver's side axle, and I have brand new bolts here, although I think I can reuse the old ones, and a brand new cork gasket, which I just installed on this end. Now, there was no gasket on the old one. I checked, it wasn't on the axle. I checked, it wasn't on the, it didn't get stuck to the output flange on the transmission. And other people I've read, other people who've posted online, I've read their stuff, and they've said, yeah, there's, they didn't see a gasket. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know what's going on with that, but the instructions in the repair manual say to use a new gasket, and I have them, so I'm going to do it. And I have brand new bolts for each side, and I did have new nuts for the outer axle, but everything I see says these are reusable. Now, the driver's side axle did come with a brand new one, so I will use this, but the passenger side didn't, so I'll see what shape the old axle nut is in when I take it off. But I'll probably end up using a new one and then just saving these for spares. Same thing with the old, these old bolts here. I'll probably save them for spares because they came out clean, they look alright. I'll just make sure I use some anti-seize compound when I put this all back together. And these two things you see here, these are, I guess, some sort of a washer plate, and they go on the with the bolts like so. So anyhow, I've pre-installed these 2 bolts. I'm going to lift this one in here, install it, and then just keep going. So that's it. Hopefully the driver's side will be done before too long, and then I can get on to the passenger side. Then hopefully maybe even today I can drive the car, if not tomorrow. Saturday the 29th of January continued. Anyhow, I got the driver's side back together. Actually had to run out to the store and get a couple of socket extensions. So, got the new axle in, bolted to the transmission, and everything so far is retorqued except for the lug nuts and the axle nut here, which I can't tighten until the car's back on the ground. So, this side is basically done, and I want to show you something on the other side here. Now, when I was trying to get the axle out on the other side, I had a lot of difficulty. So what I actually did was, and I've already done it on this side, I released the strut here from the control arm, or actually from the hub here. So basically, with these loose, once the axle nut here is out, it gives you quite a bit more room to get the axle out of the hub. And currently I'm hung up on this side, having trouble once again loosening the bolts on this side, but I know enough tricks that I will be able to get it done. And but I'm not going to be able to do it today because I actually have to stop now. I have to go somewhere, so hopefully tomorrow I'll get back out to the car, finish this up, and I can drive it again. So yeah, this is my little tip that is not in the repair manual. Just release the bolts here holding the hub to the strut, and it should give you some more clearance to work with. I think tomorrow, one of the things I'm going to have to do actually is maybe jack this side of the car up a little higher, and because on the passenger side here, the flange coming off the transmission is much further in. The axles are not even length. The one on the passenger side is a lot longer, and it's actually more difficult to get to the bolts. But you know, knock wood, I haven't found a single seized up fastener yet, and I'm putting everything back together with anti-seize, so shouldn't be a problem in the future either. So tomorrow I'll get this axle changed out, and maybe get this speedometer cable changed, because that's been making a lot of noise, and possibly even change the oil, which is just about due. So that should just about do it. The only other thing I did today, just to show you, was I replaced the headlight switch here with a new one. And the old one was still working, but it was really finicky, and I just didn't want to get out of work one day at night, have it be dark out, and flip the switch and have the headlights not come on. I've had to wiggle the switch quite a bit to get the headlights to come on, and you know, I have roughly a 50-mile commute, so I can't drive that at night without the lights. So brand new switch, aftermarket, but it's really hard to tell it from the original. Original, of course, being right here. See, it's got the same dimmer knob, same logo and everything. So this here, maybe even just a case of dirty contacts or whatnot. Obviously, I'm going to save this as a spare. It was really easy to change. I just had to pry it out here, release the connector from the back, and put the new one in. It took a minute, if even. So that's all for today, and I will get back to this tomorrow. Thanks. Sunday, January 30, 2011. I have the new drive axles in. I just have to torque down the axle nuts. I'm going to actually go down to the auto parts store and see if I can borrow a torque wrench to do that. I have a torque wrench, but the manual says to torque them down to 195 foot-pounds, and my torque wrench just doesn't go that high. It goes about to 150. So anyhow, I've also changed the engine oil, and I thought I had considered changing the speedometer cable because I have a new one and it needs to be done, but I decided not to do that today. So here is a startup and idle after the oil change, and once I'm done with this, I'm going to run down to the store, see if I can borrow a torque wrench, and then I'll just have to test drive it and I'll be done for the day. So here's a startup. Now now that light right there, that is that blinking light is the oil pressure warning light. So that may actually blink for a few seconds longer than normal on startup. Mostly because it's I have not started it up since I've changed the oil. Changed it minutes ago, so until oil makes its way through the whole system, it might not register pressure correctly. But after that, it should be fine. So here's the startup. Yep, there it is. Went out. So, it's already kind of warm, so I'm going to turn down the idle a bit. But just going to step out here for a second. This right here is the idle adjuster. Great for when it's cold. You can hear that. Bringing the idle up. Bit dirty under here. It's the middle of winter, and road salt gets picked up on everything. When it's spring, I'm definitely going to give this all a really good cleaning.